I set the table the way Margaret used to. Her winter china, the good silver, the little cinnamon candles that made the dining room glow like a memory. The roast duck came out lacquered and crisp, rosemary and orange riding the steam. I laid 2 place settings out of habit, then slid one back into the hutch before the thought could finish forming. First Christmas without her. 5 months, and still the house sounded like it was waiting for her footsteps. At 5:12, the doorbell rang. Not the gravel crunch of Michael's tires. A bell. I wiped my hands on a towel and opened the door to a kid in a red jacket, cheeks raw from the cold. "Delivery for Mr. Henry Wallace," he said, already reaching for the envelope. "I'm Henry," I managed. He handed it over and jogged back to his car without another word. The engine stuttered, coughed, then faded down the street. I stood on the porch a moment longer, the kind of silence that enlarges a man pressing in. Inside, the envelope felt too light to contain anything but bad manners. Claire's handwriting, rounded, precise, sat politely in the center. "Henry, we decided to spend Christmas at my mother's. Hope you understand." "Claire, understand what? That I'd basted a duck for a son who sent a courier? That there wasn't room for me at the table where my own boy sat carving someone else's ham?" I set the note beside the salt cellar and tried a bite anyway. The skin shattered perfectly under the knife. The meat tasted like nothing. I chewed, swallowed, and heard the clock in the parlor count the seconds I suddenly had too many of. My phone lit on the sideboard. I didn't mean to look. Reflex. A photo on Claire's mother's page. A long table gleaming with glassware. Laughter, tilting heads toward each other. Michael's hand over Claire's, both of them smiling toward a candle I wished would sputter out. Caption: "So grateful for a house full of family this Christmas. Grateful." The words settled on my chest and did not move. I turned off the candles one by one. The room cooled at once, as if the heat had only ever been borrowed. In the living room, the tree threw soft color up the window. On top, the old cardboard star Margaret and Michael made in 3rd grade leaned a little, 1 point bent. She'd never let me replace it. "It's perfect because it's ours," she'd say, tapping the crooked point like a blessing. I took my tea to the recliner and tried to make a deal with myself. It's just one holiday. People split time. New families make new rhythms. But Christmases unspooled in my head. Michael in footy pajamas. Margaret dusting powdered sugar over rolls. Me reading "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" while the fire popped. We had been the house people came to. When did we become an errand? Headlights smoothed across the wall and were gone. For a breath, I wanted them to turn back. I wanted a knock and a sheepish "Dad, plans changed." What arrived instead was the whisper we leave for ourselves when we've been trying not to hear it. This isn't about busyness, it's about choosing. I stood, restless. The house had too many edges tonight. On the counter, Claire's note lay like a dare. I slid it into the drawer with the rubber bands and batteries. Things you keep because you might need them, though you hope you won't. And opened the back door. Cold wrapped my face clean. The yard glittered with frost. Margaret loved winter light. She said it told the truth, nothing to hide behind, everything exactly as it is. I walked the flagstones to the maple where she hung the feeder, the one shaped like a tiny cottage. She'd knock on it with a knuckle and laugh when chickadees scolded her. A breeze lifted. The feeder swayed and tapped the post. Tap, tap. The sound was hollow, not seed against wood, but something tucked where it didn't belong. I reached up to still it. My fingers brushed the roofline and met paper. Stiff, weather cool, wedged tight between the post and the shingles. Just enough of a corner showed to catch the starlight. Margaret's cottage feeder winking at me like it knew my name. I stood on my toes and pinched the edge. The envelope didn't slip free. Something had kept it there on purpose. It didn't slip free. Whoever tucked it there, whoever she was that day, wedged it so tight the paper felt like part of the wood. I went back inside, grabbed the little step stool Margaret used to reach the top pantry shelf, and returned to the maple. The feeder creaked, the cold biting my fingertips. I pinched the corner, eased, and the envelope came loose with a soft sigh, as if it had been holding its breath the whole time. My name on the front. Not Mr. Wallace, not Dad. Just Henry, written in the round, sure script I could have picked out of 1,000 hands. A date in the top right corner, 1 week before she died. I didn't open it in the yard. Some things deserve a roof. At the kitchen table, I slid a butter knife under the flap and lifted. 1 page, no greeting, no ornaments. If you're reading this, something happened that I hoped wouldn't. Go to the sewing cabinet. Top drawer. M. That was all. No, I love you, which she never wasted on paper because she'd spent it in full every day. My legs took me down the hall before my mind caught up. The sewing cabinet still smelled faintly of lavender and machine oil. I pulled the top drawer, spools, needles, a thimble with a dent where she always pressed, and, taped flat beneath the felt liner, an envelope heavier than the first. My breath shortened. I peeled it away carefully, edges brittle with time. Inside, a brass key clipped to a paperclip, a folded document, and a second note. If Michael ever shuts you out, this will make sense. You'll find everything you need at the place this key opens. It's yours. Always was. You just didn't know it. M. Shuts me out? I said to the empty room, to the photograph on the dresser where her smile lived. You saw this coming, didn't you? The document was a deed, legal language marching down the page like a stiff parade, ending in my name in bold. Henry Wallace, sole owner. The address was a road I didn't recognize, a town I'd driven past, not through, Larkspur Bay. Off to the side, Margaret's pencil had left a faint crescent where she'd paused, her old habit, thinking with the eraser. A key, a deed, a sentence heavy as a hinge. If Michael ever shuts you out. My first instinct was to explain it away. She was being cautious. She was grieving before the grief. But the note in my kitchen drawer, the courier at my door, Michael's smile in someone else's dining room, threads drawing into one rope I couldn't pretend was string. I took the key from the clip. It was smooth from use, not new. How many times had she held it without telling me? The thought stung and soothed at once. This wasn't secrecy. This was strategy. My phone buzzed, a reflex again. A message from Michael's number. We can swing by next week to go through Mom's things if that helps. No, sorry, no last night. Just logistics and a claim that sounded like a hand on a doorknob that wasn't his. I typed, no need. I'll manage, then deleted it. I put the phone face down. I didn't want to speak the wrong words into a room that had just handed me the right ones. Coat, wallet, flashlight, thermos, old habits, Margaret's list, mine now. I tucked the deed into the inside pocket where I used to keep concert tickets and love notes, and feeling returned to my fingers. I held the key in my palm until it warmed. Where did you hide me a refuge? I asked the house. It answered with the soft tap of the heater and the faint tick of the clock. Time enough to find out. On the porch, the air had the blue edge of late afternoon. I locked the door, checked it twice, then a third time. The way you do when you know what matters is behind you and ahead of you both. The car door groaned. The engine turned. The radio caught a station long enough to murmur a hymn before the static took it back. I entered the address into the dashboard. The map drew a line through names I'd seen on weather reports and church bake sale flyers. County 12, Miller's Crossing, Larkspur Bay Road. 42 minutes. I could be there before the sky finished making up its mind about darkness. At the end of the driveway, I hesitated. Across the street, a sedan idled where I didn't remember any car idling before. Dark windows, no plates I recognized. It rolled forward 2 feet and stopped again, as if remembering itself. Not tonight, I said. To them or to me, I couldn't tell. I turned right instead of left, the long way around, past the hardware store where Frank still stacked salt bags each winter, past the Veterans Hall where the flag snapped like it had opinions. The key lay on the passenger seat, catching what little light there was, winking like the feeder had. A mile out, the road narrowed, trees knitting overhead. The map's blue line bent toward water. I could feel Margaret in the quiet, her decisiveness, her mercy, her way of getting 3 steps ahead without breaking a sweat. If you ever need it, she'd written without writing it. Don't argue with the gift. Gravel appeared under my tires. The sign for Larkspur Bay flashed and vanished in the beams. I slowed, listening to the car settle, to my heartbeat counting something that wasn't fear. I turned onto a lane with no name on the map, only a dot where the line ended. The trees fell away. Somewhere beyond the dark, something waited that had always been mine. I killed the headlights. The night pressed close. In my pocket, the brass key felt suddenly heavier, as if it knew exactly which lock it had been born for. Headlights off, the night pressed close enough to hear the lake shifting under ice. The lane ended in a small clearing and a shape I felt before I fully saw it. White clapboard, dark roof, a narrow porch with 2 steps and rails Margaret would have called polite. I sat a moment with the engine ticking, the brass key warming in my palm, the feeling that I was about to walk into a room she'd just stepped out of. The lock accepted the key like it had been waiting for that turn. One click, then the door eased inward. Cold met cedar, a faint sweetness I couldn't place. Maybe oranges dried on a string. I found the switch. A lamp on a side table came up soft and yellow. Not a speck of dust on it. "Margaret," I said, because the room asked for her name. A small living room, bookcase on the left, 2 chairs by the window, a braided rug, a mantel with frames that pulled me forward. Our 35th anniversary. Her hair caught mid-laugh. A beach day, dress snapping in wind, footprints swallowed by foam. And one I'd never seen. Margaret on this very porch, mug in both hands, eyes crinkled like she'd kept a secret from the camera and from me. On the coffee table, a square of paper set beneath a coaster. I slid it free. "In case you ever forget how to land, begin here. Kettle, chair, quiet breath. The rest will return." M. I let out a sound that wasn't quite a laugh. "You built me a runway." The kitchen felt like the first house we'd made. White cabinets, the old-style drip coffee maker, enamel mugs hanging from hooks. Inside the pantry, cans lined with a ship's precision. Beans, tomatoes, peaches, labels facing forward. On the inside of a cabinet door, a grocery list in her hand. Coffee, bread, eggs, nutmeg. Below it, a date from last spring and a note. "Frank knows the delivery route if you're stuck." Frank. She'd looped him in without telling me. Not secrecy, strategy. Down the short hall, a bedroom with a quilt folded at the foot, stitches tiny and sure. The second room held 3 boxes against the wall, fat black marker across the tops, HW. I knelt, my hands hovered. I didn't open them. Not yet. It felt like waking a sleeping dog just to see if it would wag. Back in the living room, I stood at the bookcase. Mysteries up high, gardening down low, cookbooks at my reaching height. Her categories, not mine. Tucked sideways at the end of a shelf, a slim blue ledger. Inside, a neat column of dates and small ordinary things done with intention. Porch swept, oil tank filled, windows checked before first snow. Ruth at number 7 has spare key, a name for the first time. Ruth. On the next page, another list. Numbers you'll forget if you pretend you don't need them. 2 were familiar. The third wasn't. DM, consult, only if necessary. No title, just initials. The page smelled faintly of lavender and pencil. "Only if necessary," I repeated, testing the weight of the words. What counted as necessary? A courier on Christmas? A son who sent me a schedule instead of an apology? I set the ledger on the table, found the kettle, filled it, and listened to the water begin its small talk. From the drawer by the stove, a tin slid easily into my hand, blue, with a dent on the lid. Inside, matches, spare batteries, a tiny flashlight, and one more folded note, edges softened by time. "You don't have to be brave every minute, Henry. Sit, count 7 breaths, then choose the next right inch." Steam curled from the kettle's spout. I poured, wrapped both hands around the mug, and let the heat speak to the ache my chest had become since afternoon. The room answered by settling, wood sound, house sound, the kind of comfort that doesn't try to fix you, only holds. I told the chair what I hadn't said out loud. He didn't call, she did. I told the rug, they'll come when there's something to divide. Saying it didn't make it cruel. It made it clear. Headlights swept briefly across the far wall, a pale band that moved from window to mantel and disappeared. Not my car. Another pass, slower, as if the driver wasn't sure where to stop. Gravel pressed under tires out front. The kettle ticked as it cooled. A shadow paused across the glass of the front door. The knob turned, not testing, trying. A quiet, willful twist against the latch that hadn't yet learned my name. I stood without breathing, the mug cooling in my hand, watching the knob try itself against the latch. "Who's there?" My voice came out steady, not because I felt steady, but because Margaret always said a steady voice could settle a room. Silence, then a woman's shape through the frosted pane. "Henry, it's Ruth from number 7. The outline lifted a mittened hand in a small, apologetic wave. I cracked the door, chain still on. "I didn't mean to scare you," she said, breath puffing white. "Saw a light for the first time in months. Margaret told me, if the cottage ever wakes up and you're the one inside, I should check you've got heat and a proper kettle." The chain fell. I let her in. She stomped snow from her boots, eyes quick and kind, the kind that memorizes a kitchen in a single blink. "I brought the spare," she added, fishing in her coat. A brass twin to the key in my pocket tinkled into my palm. She asked me to keep it. "Only if he needs it," she said. "Did she say why?" I asked. Ruth's face softened. "Only that you'd need a place that didn't argue with you." She looked past me toward the door. "2 days ago, a dark sedan sat by your lane till dusk. Didn't come up. Just watched. You weren't here." "Not then," I said. "Be careful, Henry." She squeezed my forearm once, a neighbor's benediction. "You'll find notes in the ledger." She was a list maker. At the threshold, she turned. "And don't be noble about help. Nobility gets old men cold." Then she was back into the night, her scarf a red vowel swallowed by trees. I slept at the cottage on principle. Margaret's kettle, Margaret's quilt, a mattress that knew my name. In the morning, with the lake burning pale under ice, I locked up, pressed my palm flat to the door, the way you do when you're promising to return, and drove home the long way. The sedan wasn't on the lane. It waited instead at the turn by the county road, idling like a thought you can't quite lose. I didn't look long enough to read the plate. Frank was stocking salt bags at the hardware when I walked in. He'd practiced law for 30 years before choosing hammers over hearings, but the lawyer never quite vacated his eyes. "You look like a man who found something," he said. "A deed," I said, and slid it across the counter. He put on readers, then a second pair balanced over the first, which he kept for small print designed by cowards. Larkspur Bay. He whistled, low. "In your name alone. No co-owner. Not community property. Margaret was tidy." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means," he said, tapping the page, "nobody touches it unless you hand them the handle. Keep originals off-site. Make copies. Photograph every page. And, Henry, if anybody starts saying words like consolidate, streamline, or family trust, call me before you sign so much as your grocery list." "Why would they?" "Because grief makes estates look like puzzles other people want to solve." His gaze warmed. "And because some sons marry strategy in a red dress and call it love." I heard tires crunch outside my house before I saw the SUV. Michael parked too straight, the way he did when he was performing competence. Claire stayed in the passenger seat, face lit by her phone, thumbnail hunting some invisible itch on her screen. "Dad," Michael said at the door, smile professionally sorrowful. "We've been worried. How are you holding up?" "I held up Christmas dinner," I said. "It didn't fall." He winced and breezed past me like the house had invited him. In the living room, he scanned with the quiet appetite of a realtor. "Mom would want me to help you, you know, with things. Mail, insurance, utilities. We could put everything on auto pay. Maybe sell the pickup before the market drops. Claire's uncle knows a guy who could set up a family trust. Makes everything neat." "For whom?" I asked. "For everyone," he said, and didn't blink. "Claire not coming in?" "She thought I should talk to you alone." He cleared his throat. "Also, I was in the garage looking for Mom's sewing machine. and I saw some boxes, paperwork. His eyes slid toward the hallway, as if the papers were already halfway to his hands. "You can ask," I said. He didn't, not directly. He toured the room with words. "We don't want anything to get messy. You've got a lot on your plate. If there are accounts we don't know about, or properties..." The pause was a note he expected me to sing. "Properties," I repeated, almost gently. He smiled the way men smile when they think they're being kind while tightening a strap. "I can run a search," he said, too casual. "County records are public. If there's anything out there, better we organize it now." I let silence make its small theater. Outside, Claire's SUV idled, patient as tide. A cardinal hit the feeder and flashed away. In my pocket, the Larkspur key pressed its shape into my palm, a reminder and a rule. Michael set his elbows on his knees the way boys do when they're about to ask for a bigger allowance. "Dad," he said softly, "do you have any other places Mom didn't tell me about?" I let the question sit between us like a coin on a table, shiny, tempting, not mine to pick up. Claire's SUV hummed at the curb, patient as a cat. Michael's eyes didn't blink. "If your mother wanted you to know something," I said, "you'd have known it." "That's not an answer, Dad. It's the only one I have for that kind of question." His smile tightened. "We're only trying to help, consolidate things, streamline. Claire's uncle can set up a family trust. Clean, simple. We could even start downsizing. It's a lot to manage alone." "For whom would it be simple?" I asked. "For everyone," he said, and looked down the hall toward Margaret's sewing room as if the word everyone had a key. "Claire not coming in?" I asked. "She thinks I should handle this." He glanced at his watch, then back at me. "Listen, if there are any accounts, properties, things that could get messy, better we face them now." "I'll let you know if I need help facing things," I said, gentler than he deserved. "Today, I need you to go home." He stood slowly, disappointment arranged on his face like Sunday clothes. At the door, he tried again. "You sure you're okay?" "I'm sure," I said, "and I'm not alone." He didn't ask what that meant. He walked to the SUV. Claire didn't look up. When the engine faded, the house made its small adjusting sounds. I set my palm on the hall wall, steadying a heartbeat that had decided to drum. Outside, a black sedan slid by, too slow for a drive-by, too quick for a neighbor. It didn't stop. It didn't need to. It had already asked a question. How alone are you, really? At the hardware store, Frank read the worry before I spoke. "He asked," I said. "Let me guess, trust, streamline, downsizing." He snorted. "Estate buzzwords, polished till they look like kindness." He scribbled a name on a receipt pad and tore it off. "DM, Diana Moore, consultant. She keeps people from getting rearranged." Diana's office was a square room over a bakery. She shook my hand like a person measuring steadiness. "Tell me everything," she said, and didn't write a word until I finished. "They're building a picture," she said at last. "Isolated, confused, in need of rescue. We break the picture. Bank records showing you transact, doctor letter on cognitive capacity, witness statements from people who see you think. Paper beats story." "Is this overkill?" I asked. "It's a coat in January," she said. "You don't need it until you do." At the bank, Mrs. Alvarez printed 6 months of statements and a log showing I'd been in person every month. "You sign with a flourish," she said, smiling. "I'll note that." At Dr. Keller's, I named months backward, drew a clock, and told him who was president when I bought my first truck. He listened to my lungs, watched my eyes. "You're fine," he said, sharper than my interns. He typed a letter while I watched the cursor do its work. On the way home, I stopped at the Veterans Hall to drop coats, asked Raj at the market to initial today's receipt, waved to Ellen at the hardware as she jotted the time I picked up lamp oil. It felt silly and necessary, ordinary life, notarized. Back at the house, the mailbox held a flyer from a senior transition service. Smiling couple, tidy boxes, promises of peace. No return address. I folded it once, twice, then fed it to the kitchen trash like it was a small, dry lie. Diana called near dusk. One more thing, don't let anyone in without confirming identity. No surprise inspections. Scammers love clipboards. As if on cue, tires whispered to a stop in front of my house. Through the window, the same dark sedan idled under the street lamp. A man in a beige windbreaker stepped out, a clipboard in his hand. He walked up my path like he'd practiced it. The knock was official, 3 hard taps and a pause. I opened the door on the chain. "Yes? Mr. Wallace?" he asked, eyes cool. "That's me." "County notice," he said, lifting the envelope so I could see the seal. "You'll want to read this carefully." The envelope was heavier than it looked. County seal, probate court. Petition for appointment of guardian. In re Henry Wallace. Petitioners, Michael Wallace and Claire Wallace. My name on a line like a defendant. Bullet points dressed as concern. Confusion with bank pins. Once at the counter, and I laughed about it with Mrs. Alvarez. Unpaid gas bill. Misfiled under the placemats, found in 10 minutes. Leaving the stove on. I turned the burner back the second the kettle sang. At the bottom, secondary property at 118 Harbor Lane, Larkspur Bay, currently at risk of neglect. Petitioners seek temporary control to prevent waste. They had found the cottage, or guessed enough to say it out loud. I steadied my hands on the table and called Diana. "Bring it now," she said. "And Henry, don't call them. Don't answer them. Don't try to make anyone understand." Her office smelled of paper and the bakery downstairs. She read in silence, jaw set, pen motionless. "They're not proving facts," she said at last. "They're painting a picture, isolated, slipping, rescuable. We break the picture with paper." "I started a stack," I said. "Bank logs, the doctor's letter, signed receipts from the market and hardware." She opened a drawer and slid out a red folder already labeled Wallace, Contingency. My name in Margaret's tidy block letters. I felt the room tilt. "Margaret?" Diana nodded once. "She came to me 6 months before she passed. Said, 'If anyone tries to make him small, I want you to make him big on paper.' She left instructions, a checklist, contacts, and this. Inside, a short note in Margaret's hand. 'Activate only if necessary. He'll try to be brave about the wrong things.' And a draft trust document, half completed, waiting for my signature. The title read, The Margaret Lake Trust. She prepared a protective structure, Diana said. We can move the cottage into it this week. It becomes its own legal person. Even if a temporary guardianship were granted, which we will not allow, trust assets are harder to touch." "Do it," I said, surprising myself with how quickly the word came. We built our wall. Mrs. Alvarez printed a certification that I made deposits in person monthly and had set travel notices correctly on 2 occasions. Dr. Keller's letter went on top. No evidence of cognitive impairment, patient-oriented X3. Ruth from number 7 signed a statement about the spare key and the winterizing checklist Margaret taught her to follow. Ellen at the hardware added a line about my ladder rental and how I refused help carrying it because pride has bones. Diana drafted our response. Objection to petition. Motion to dismiss. Request for protective order. She clipped exhibits like armor plates, A through H, and slid the whole thing into a blueback that made its own sound when it closed. Enough. At the clerk's window, the stamp came down with a solid thump. Hearing set 2 weeks out. Copies for the petitioners went into a beige tray that swallowed too many stories every day. On the sidewalk, I felt watched. Across the street, a dark sedan idled. The passenger window lowered 2 inches. Claire's sunglasses reflected me in miniature. She lifted her phone and tapped the screen with a red nail, a recording dot blooming like a wound. I didn't give her a line to cut from. I looked at the courthouse doors like they were interesting and walked away. That night, the mailbox held another envelope. Thinner, meaner. Emergency addendum, allegations upgraded, reckless donations, impulsive sale of assets, refusal of family assistance. They cited my pickup, the veterans' coats, my recent secretive travel. They wanted the hearing advanced. I phoned Diana. "Let them sprint," she said. "We don't need speed, we need clarity." Tomorrow we file our own motion with a physician's affidavit and a supplemental witness list. And Henry? Be seen. Not hiding. Seen. So I was. I shook hands at the veterans' breakfast. I priced cedar planks with Ellen and asked 3 sensible questions about warping. I bought 2 stamps inside the post office and joked with the clerk about the new designs. I didn't perform sanity. I lived it in small notarizable inches. Back home, an official knock, 3 taps and a pause. Clipboard again, different man, same windbreaker. "Mr. Wallace," he said, offering a sealed packet. "A welfare check order. I'll need to step inside to verify you're safe in the residence." Diana's warning rang in my ear. Scammers love clipboards. The seal looked right. The name was spelled correctly. The badge had weight. "Stand there," I said, keeping the chain on. "Read me the docket number." He did. It matched the notice. "Wait," I said, and dialed on speaker. "Diana, they're at the door with a welfare check. Don't let him in more than the threshold," she said, crisp. "Answer 2 questions. Show him your ID, have him note your orientation, and send him out. If he insists, you call me back and you call the sheriff." I opened the chain just enough for the width of a clipboard. The man looked past me, curious, measuring. "What day is it, Mr. Wallace?" "Wednesday," I said. "Probate filings are stamped on Wednesdays. You can see mine on the table if you squint." "And where are you?" "In my house," I said, "which I'm not leaving with you." He made a quick note, neutral as rain. "Good evening, sir." He turned, the sedan's engine answering like a bodyguard clearing its throat. The phone buzzed before the taillights reached the corner. A text from Michael. "Dad, there's a gathering at our place tomorrow night. Neighbors, friends. Come?" A smiley face, polite as a snare. Diana called at the same moment. "They filed to advance the hearing to Tuesday. We'll counter at 9 a.m. sharp." Through the window, the sedan paused under the street lamp as if waiting for an answer to a question I hadn't decided how to hear. I typed, "No to Michael," then erased it. On my table, the red folder breathed quietly. On my porch, tires whispered to a stop. Again. A new knock, softer, followed by a woman's voice I didn't recognize. "Mr. Wallace, I need a moment about your other property." A woman's voice. Polite, picked, like a receptionist who'd learned to sound harmless. I left the chain on. "Who are you?" She held up a trifold and a smile. "Tessa Grant, Ridgeway Transitions. Claire asked me to schedule inventory for both addresses, the house and 118 Harbor Lane." She shouldn't have had the cabin's number. She shouldn't have had my door. "Business card," I said. She slid one under the chain. Embossed, tidy, a phone number with no name for a landline. "We can handle keys, utilities, the pre-list video walkthrough. No pressure on you. Tomorrow morning works." "Who hired you?" "Claire," she said too fast, then softened it. "The family. You have a signed consent from me?" Her smile thinned. "Well, we assumed—" "You shouldn't." I shut the door gently, like closing a book before the ending. Through the glass, I watched her jot my house number on a clipboard and walk to a dark sedan idling beneath the street lamp. The passenger window slid down. A red nail, Claire's, tapped the edge of the clipboard. The sedan drifted off, polite as a shark. I called Diana on speaker, the card in my hand. "They sent a transition service," I said. "She knows the cabin's address." "Good," Diana said. "Now we know they know. Keep the card. Time, date, license plate if you got it." "I got Claire's manicure." "Paper beats story," she said. "Tomorrow we add this to Exhibit H." At dawn I drove to the cottage. The lake was a sheet of pewter. The porch held yesterday's cold like a memory. Inside I opened the slim blue ledger again, looking for something I'd missed. Page 3. A column I hadn't noticed in the yellow lamplight. Vendors we trust. 2 names. Frank at the hardware. DM with a number I'd never dialed written in Margaret's careful script. I'd already met DM, Diana Moore. Margaret had built the road I was walking. On my way back, I stopped at Frank's. He was pricing shovels, the optimism of spring still months away. "You were right," I said. "They hired muscle. Paper muscle." "Yesterday I saw Claire at Ridgeway Storage," he said, lowering his voice. Unit 14. Talking to a man with a realtor's tote. Once we get the signature, we'll move the cabin file into this box. Then she laughed like signatures grow on trees. Did she see you? Not the first time, he said. The second time I waved. We wrote it down as a statement then and there. He dated and signed it with the noisily honest pen he kept under the register, the kind that leaves a groove in the paper. At the bank, Mrs. Alvarez called me into her office. I thought you should see this. On her screen, a high-resolution scan of a consent to inventory form bearing my name, with a signature that bent the W in Wallace the wrong way. It came in this morning by fax from a family representative. We flagged it. The W is wrong. Yours lifts on the third stroke. I stared at the letters that weren't mine, wearing my name like a stolen coat. Who faxed it? She rotated the header. The sender ID read Ridgeway Transitions. Diana answered on the first ring. Good. We wanted a reason to ask for sanctions. You call forgery good. I call it proof, she said. Bring the printout. We'll attach it with Mrs. Alvarez's affidavit. And Henry, do not confront them. Let the judge see it before they have a chance to explain it into fog. On my porch that afternoon, a thick envelope waited. Emergency motion to advance hearing. Granted. New date, tomorrow at 9 a.m. I dialed Michael. He picked up on the second ring, voice made of silk and cardboard. Dad, I'm glad you called. We were worried you were getting overwhelmed. Did you send Ridgeway Transitions to my door? Claire, coordinated. Some resources. We're trying to help. Did you fax a consent with my signature? A beat of static. If something went over early, it was a clerical. Michael, I said, when you were 10, you tried to forge my name on a permission slip. You slanted the W left. You slant it left when you're nervous. He exhaled through his teeth. You're making this adversarial. You made it legal. He went quiet, then said, small and mean, you won't be able to keep up. I don't have to keep up, I said. I have to show up. I hung up before my temper could say something my lawyer would have to wallpaper. That night, I packed a folder so heavy the clasp winced. Bank logs, doctor's letter, Ruth's statement, Frank's affidavit, Mrs. Alvarez's printout with the wrong way W. The deed transfer Diana had recorded that afternoon into the Margaret Lake Trust. Official now, stamped and indexed. I brewed coffee like Margaret taught me, pinch of cinnamon to settle the heart, and stood at the window. The sedan idled under the street lamp again, patient, sure. My phone buzzed, a number I didn't know. Mr. Wallace, a woman said, crisp as a stapler. This is Judge Larkin's clerk. The court requests that you bring any original documents regarding the alleged forged consent. The judge will entertain preliminary matters before opening statements. Before, a small word that can change a life. I set the phone down, put my palm on the red folder, and felt it breathe. The sedan's engine cut. Footsteps on my walk. A knock, soft this time, and a voice I knew too well. Dad, it's me. We should talk, before tomorrow. He stood on the porch with his hands in his coat pockets, the old boyish tilt to his mouth. Dad, Michael said, we should talk before tomorrow. We will, I said, in front of the person who can hear us both. His eyes hardened, then softened, practiced. It doesn't have to be adversarial. You filed papers to take my life out of my hands, I said. That's the definition. I closed the door gently, like setting down a glass you don't want to break, and set the red folder on the chair by the door where I'd see it at dawn. The courthouse smelled like old paper and burned coffee. Diana straightened my tie like Margaret used to and set the red folder square on the plaintiff's table. The bailiff called the room to order. Judge Larkin, gray hair pinned back, gaze like a plumb line, took the bench. Preliminary matters, she said. Counsel? Diana rose. Your Honor, before openings we request the court review a forged consent to inventory faxed under Mr. Wallace's name yesterday. Originals and bank verification are in Exhibit F. The judge held out a hand. Paper traveled. Silence. She compared my signature on the driver's license to the fax. The W is wrong, she said almost to herself. Ms. Alvarez? Mrs. Alvarez stepped up, calm as a wintered lake. I flagged it. Mr. Wallace's W lifts on the third stroke. This one drags. The judge's eyes moved to Michael and Claire. Counsel, do your clients wish to explain why a third party, Ridgeway Transitions, faxed a consent with a suspect signature? Their attorney stood. Administrative enthusiasm, Your Honor. A miscommunication while arranging supportive services. Enthusiasm is not a defense to forgery, the judge said. We'll address sanctions later. Proceed. The attorney painted me as drifting, mishandled bills, impulsive donations, secretive trips. He said, for his own good, so many times the words began to sound like furniture polish. Diana's turn. She didn't polish, she stacked. Mrs. Alvarez, deposits made in person, travel notices correctly set. PIN confusion once, laughed off. Dr. Keller, no cognitive impairment, oriented, steady. He reminded me to update my flu shot posters. Ruth from number 7. Winterizing checklist Margaret taught her, spare key documented. He makes coffee, sweeps the porch, scolds my dog for stealing gloves. Frank from the hardware, my ladder rental, my refusal of help. Pride has bones. And then the storage unit conversation he'd overheard. Claire planning the listing once the papers go through. Claire colored high in the cheeks. Michael studied the table. Diana slid the Ridgeway business card to the clerk, then the fax header. Then my 2-line statement. I did not consent. I was not asked. Last, she placed the deed transfer into the Margaret Lake Trust, stamped yesterday, indexed. Even if this court were inclined to appoint a temporary guardian, she said, there is very little left to protect. My client has already done so, lawfully. The judge leaned back, hands steepled. Mr. Wallace, she said, I'll hear from you. I stood. The microphone smelled faintly of dust and metal. I'm 72, I said. I forget where I put the tape measure and why I walked into rooms. But I know my name, my bills, and who loves me. My wife believed I'd be fine until someone told me I wasn't. She left me a cottage because she knew the day might come when a smile would be used like a pry bar. That day came. I'm not angry as much as I am awake. Silence held like glass. The judge nodded once, slow. She ruled without flourish. Petition for guardianship, denied. Protective order, granted. Petitioners are enjoined from interfering with Mr. Wallace's person or property, including attempts to contract services or access accounts without written consent. The forged consent is referred to the county prosecutor for review. Costs to the respondents. Her gavel fell. It sounded like a door locking from the inside. Outside on the steps, winter bit clean. Diana squeezed my shoulder. Go breathe, she said. Then bring me that red folder. We'll finish the last filings. Michael stood 5 steps down, hands bare in the cold. He looked smaller. Dad, he said, I didn't mean. You meant to win, I said. That's different from meaning well. Claire lingered by the curb, phone in her hand, sunglasses hiding nothing. I walked past them, not fast, not slow. The lake road waited. At the cottage, I set Margaret's kettle on, pinched cinnamon into the grounds the way she taught me, and watched the first steam curl like handwriting. The house received me without questions. On the mantel, her note sat where I'd left it. Begin here. Kettle, chair, quiet breath. I took the chair. My hand stopped shaking. I pictured the Veterans Hall, the work we could do with weekends and wood smoke, the way laughter sits differently in a room that has chosen you. My phone buzzed, a voicemail from Michael. I didn't press play on. Outside, ice cracked on the lake, then settled. The door breathed as the house warmed. I set the red folder on the table and laid my palm on it, the way you bless something you're not ready to put away. Across the water, a car stopped on the road, idled, then moved on. The cottage held its ground. I thought of Margaret's last instruction. Choose the next right inch. I could do inches. I poured the coffee, set a second mug on the table out of habit, and let it sit there, cooling slowly, as if someone might still walk through the door and take the seat across from me. If this story moved you in any way, don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment below. I read every single one. and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Your support helps us keep sharing voices that deserve to be heard.